I pay $600 a month in child support despite having 50-50 custody. When I asked my ex to lower it, she called me a deadbeat and threatened court. Alright, so here's the lowdown. My marriage was already teetering when my ex accidentally got pregnant. We were about 3 years in, but things had been rocky for a while. We were using protection, but something went wrong, and boom, surprise baby. I'm not saying she planned it, but the timing was super sketchy since we'd already been talking about splitting up for a few months by then. Our relationship had turned toxic, we'd argue over the tiniest things, sleep in separate rooms, the whole drama-filled kit. She'd get pissed when I worked late, and I'd get annoyed with her spending. Even deciding who'd do the dishes turned into a full-blown argument. We'd lost the ability to communicate, and deep down, we both knew it was over, but neither of us wanted to be the one to pull the trigger. When she hit me with the news that she was pregnant, I was totally thrown off. We'd been using condoms since she had quit her birth control due to mood swings or something. So, her positive test didn't exactly fill me with joy. I blurted out a super insensitive question about whether it was mine, not my finest moment. That kicked off a huge fight, complete with her chucking a coffee mug at the wall, luckily, not at me. We gave the whole let's try to make it work thing a shot, but it was clear we were both miserable. I suggested couples counseling. She went once and bailed because she didn't vibe with the therapist. I kept going solo for a bit, just to vent. Before our son even arrived, we decided to split but agreed to stick it out living under the same roof for his first few months, for practical reasons and to bond with the baby. I moved into the guest room, she stayed in the master bedroom, and we turned the office into a nursery. The whole setup was awkward as heck, but we wanted to be there for our kid from the get-go. Living like that turned into a nightmare. We'd avoid each other like the plague, had a kitchen schedule to dodge eating together, and she'd have her friends over to loudly chat about me. I basically camped out in my room when I wasn't working or helping with the kid. When our son was born, things were surprisingly calm for a few days. We kinda had this silent agreement to keep the peace, and for a brief second, I thought we might actually co-parent well. That didn't last long, though. We were back to barely talking within a couple of weeks. We went through the divorce process and were living apart before our son even hit his first birthday. As for our custody arrangement, we were left to figure it out ourselves, no strict court schedule. I send $600 a month in child support since I likely wouldn't have him half the time due to my work hours and lack of nearby family. We went with a mediator since neither of us could afford fancy lawyers, and the plan was to keep the agreement flexible so it could change as our son grew and our situations evolved. Sounded good in theory, but yeah, not so much in reality. My family's far away, my parents are on the other side of the country, and my sister was abroad, leaving me without much of a support network locally. Meanwhile, her family's nearby, so she's got help when she needs it. Right after we split, I got a cheap one-bedroom apartment about 15 minutes from the house. It wasn't great, but it's what I could manage after handing her the house. I had our son on the weekends until he turned 2, as my job had me working these insane 10-hour shifts. I just didn't have it in me to look after a toddler on weeknights. I was in sales, and the hours were killer. I'd leave at 7 a.m. and wouldn't get back until late most nights. I couldn't handle daycare pickups or properly care for him during the week. But I still made an effort to see him during the week when I could swing an early night off. I'd head over to their place, and we'd hit the park or grab some ice cream or something, giving my ex some free time to hit the gym or hang with friends. That one-on-one time with my son meant the world to me. Man, those first couple years with my son were tough. I missed out on a lot of his first steps and words. My ex would try to help by sending me videos, but it just wasn't the same as being there. I felt like I was dropping the ball as a dad because my work situation kept me tied down. Eventually, though, I found a new gig that was way more flexible. It didn't pay as much, but the chance to be with my son more was worth the pay cut. I got a job at a smaller company where I could work from home a couple of days a week, and manage my hours on the other days. Losing 20% of my salary was a bummer, but being a dad was way more important to me than the extra cash. After switching jobs, I got to spend every weekend and some weekdays with him, so the custody split was about 60-40, with my ex having him a bit more. I was still trying to figure out how to juggle work and being a single dad, but I was getting the hang of it. During this time, I also upgraded to a better apartment with 2 bedrooms so my son could have his own room. It stretched my budget even more, but I wanted him to feel at home with me. My ex sometimes gave me grief for not having him more, but then would complain when I asked for extra days with him. It felt like I couldn't win. There was this one time I asked to take him to visit my parents for a week during the summer, and she acted like I was trying to pull a fast one. But then she'd turn around and tell me I needed to step up as a father. The mixed messages were nonstop. Then I met my now wife. She lived about an hour away, and we did the long distance thing for a while. Every other weekend, when I didn't have my son, I'd either drive to her or she'd visit me. She was super patient with the whole situation, which was a relief because not everyone would want to date a guy with a kid and a complicated ex. After about 8 months, she got a job offer in my city and moved closer. Her place was just 10 minutes from mine. As we kept dating, she started spending more time with my son, and they really clicked. She's awesome with kids and has 2 nieces she's close to, so she knew how to connect with him. She never tried to take over mom duties, just wanted to be a positive influence in his life. After about a year, we moved in together and adjusted the custody arrangement to be a true 50-50 split. My wife is fantastic with my son, and having her support made it possible for us to have more time with him. Her place was bigger with a spare room that turned into my son's room. We've been doing the 50-50 thing for about 2 years now, and it seems to be working great. Our schedule is we have him Monday through Wednesday morning one week, then Thursday through Sunday the next week. Our son seems happy and well adjusted despite everything. My wife and I tied the knot last year in a small ceremony, and my son was the ring bearer. He was super serious about his role, and it was adorable. Surprisingly, my ex was really cool about the wedding. She even helped get him ready that morning since he was with her the night before. Now, our son is 6 and really starting to get into sports and other activities. He's into soccer and is asking to try karate too. Soccer practices are twice a week with games on Saturdays. The league fees aren't too bad, but then there's all the gear, cleats, shin guards, uniforms, and he's constantly outgrowing everything. The karate place near us wants about $120 a month plus fees for uniforms and belt tests. Financially, we're managing, but it's tight. My pay dropped when I switched jobs, and my wife's a teacher, which we all know isn't exactly lucrative. Her district hasn't given raises in a while, but she loves her job and the kids despite the low pay. She's always grading papers and buying classroom supplies out of pocket. When we went over our budget last month, I noticed how much of a difference $600 could make. That's basically our electric and water bills with some left for groceries. It would really help ease our food budget, which keeps climbing, and give us more wiggle room for our son's activities. We're also trying to save up for a house down payment, but it's slow going with everything else we have to pay for. I cover my son's health insurance through my job, plus I chip in a bigger chunk for his private school tuition since my ex insisted on that route. The school costs about $8,000 a year, and we agreed I'd handle 60% while she'd cover 40%, based on what we were earning when we split. His health insurance takes another $200 out of my paycheck monthly. I don't complain about these expenses because I want the best for him. My son had some issues in public school kindergarten. He's super smart but gets bored easily and struggles to focus. The private school has smaller classes and more personalized attention. I was skeptical about the cost at first, but he's thriving there. So, it's worth it. Still, with tuition, health insurance, and $600 in child support, a big chunk of my income is tied up. I suggested to my ex that we either drop the child support or lower it to $250 a month, which would still cover a lot of his expenses. I thought I was being fair and approached her calmly over coffee, laying out our budget and explaining how tight things were getting. I thought it was a reasonable talk, given our changed circumstances. She didn't agree. She got really mad, stormed out of the coffee shop, and knocked over her chair, leaving everyone staring. I just sat there for a minute before paying the bill and leaving. I figured she needed some time to cool off, so I didn't reach out immediately. Later, she called me, furious, accusing me of taking food out of our son's mouth. She said it wasn't fair because I live in a 2-income household, and suggested I should get a second job instead of asking to support our son less. She threatened to take me to court for full custody if I brought it up again, calling me selfish and claiming I was dodging my duties as a dad. She dredged up old grievances, like missing his preschool graduation due to a work emergency and forgetting his favorite stuffed animal once. I tried to explain I wasn't trying to shirk my responsibilities, just suggesting the support balance needed to reflect our equal time with him now. She didn't want to hear it and hung up on me. Later, her mom texted and called me a deadbeat dad, which was surprising since we usually got along. Apparently, my ex gave her a twisted version of our talk. Her mom bombarded me with texts saying a real man would work 2 jobs instead of taking money away from his child. It felt ridiculous. I'd already switched careers and took a pay cut to be more present for my son. Working another job would mean less time with him, which seems counterproductive. I didn't think I was out of line for suggesting lowering the support, as it would still go towards supporting him at our place. Yes, we have a 2-income household, but her partner lives with her, too. Hopefully, he's helping out at home. They've been together for over a year, and he moved in recently. He works at a tech startup, but it's only part-time, so I'm not sure how much he contributes financially. When we divorced, I gave her the house, which I'd already paid a large portion of. I didn't contest it, wanting my son to have stability without having to move. So, our old house wasn't anything fancy, but it was in a pretty decent neighborhood with good schools. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath place with a fenced yard. We just finished renovating the kitchen before we split up, which was a big issue in our marriage. She was all about getting the high-end stuff, while I thought we should stick to a budget. I don't know all the details of her finances, but I know our son has loads of toys over at her place, plus an iPad, and they eat out a lot. She's always posting photos of them at different restaurants or ordering takeout. Just last week, they were at this fancy sushi restaurant where the rolls are like $18 each. A couple of months ago, she went on a beach vacation with her partner and our son. They stayed at a nice resort right by the water for a long weekend. Meanwhile, I've been trying to cut down on eating out and haven't taken a proper vacation in over a year. So, I'm really curious about where the $600 a month I send in child support is going. It's obviously not just covering the basics. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled my son gets to have nice things and do fun stuff. I'm not saying she should live in poverty or anything, but it's tough to be financially strapped while she seems to be living it up. Then, I get called a deadbeat for suggesting we adjust the child support to better fit our current situation. I was confident it was a reasonable request, and my wife agrees. She did say maybe I should have just asked to lower it instead of getting rid of it entirely, and I get that. But honestly, I'm having a hard time seeing why I'm in the wrong here. Yesterday, my ex texted me saying we need to revisit our whole custody agreement if I'm going to be difficult about the support. That felt like a threat, and I don't want to end up in a big legal fight. It doesn't seem fair that I'm paying the same amount in child support now that I have him half the time as I was when I only had him on weekends. One of my buddies, who went through a tough divorce a few years back, advised me to just keep quiet and pay up because courts tend to side with the mom. He had a really bad experience and only gets his kids every other weekend now. But another friend thinks I'm being taken advantage of and should talk to a lawyer. He suggests documenting everything and being ready if she takes me to court. I'm worried about how a legal battle would affect my son. He's a sensitive kid, and I don't want him caught in the middle. He already senses the tension between his mom and me, even though we try to keep things civil in front of him. After one of our fights, he asked me if I was mad at his mom, and it broke my heart. I explained that grown-ups sometimes disagree, but we both love him very much. I'm scared of what might happen if things get really ugly between us. I'm stuck in this catch-22 where I would love to consult a lawyer to know my rights, but lawyers are expensive, and I'm already stretched thin because of the child support. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm being unreasonable here. Update, April 11th. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. I woke up to hundreds of comments and messages. You all have a lot of opinions. I stopped reading comments after a while, though, because some were pretty harsh. I've already replied to a bunch in my last post, so I won't spend much time clarifying here. We do have a custody and support agreement, but it's not super common. It set my child support and basically said we have shared custody and can decide the schedule ourselves. The mediator who helped us during the divorce suggested this since we were being amicable and it would save on legal fees. Looking back, maybe we should have had everything clearly spelled out from the beginning, but hindsight is 20/20. So there was this time when I thought my ex and I could handle stuff like mature adults. Big mistake, huh? I decided to bring up the topic with her directly instead of going to court. For one, I didn't want to catch her off guard, and second, we'd always managed to agree on custody changes over a chat or coffee. It was nice to keep lawyers out of it. I figured this would be the same, but money turned out to be a much touchier subject than schedules. Some folks here called me a dumbass, and they were right. I probably should have talked to a lawyer first. But hey, we'd always figured things out ourselves before, and lawyers are expensive. The one I called wanted $300 just for an hour, which is like half a month's child support. Anyway, I let things cool off for a couple of days after bringing it up with her. During that time, she sent me some passive-aggressive texts about stuff like our kid's shirt being too small or me forgetting his homework folder, just normal co-parenting stuff that seemed bigger because of our argument. The day after my post, I decided to apologize for how I handled the child support conversation, not for bringing it up, just for how it all went down. I told her I still wanted to talk about it and asked if she'd be open to mediation. At first, she said no, but then she came around to it. So we went to this community dispute resolution center the next day. It was super awkward sitting there with her, especially since she brought her mom along. Thankfully, the mediator asked her mom to wait outside. I came prepared with all sorts of documents about my income, expenses, and involvement with our son. Probably went overboard because I was paranoid after reading some comments. She didn't bring any paperwork, which didn't help her case. The mediator was this older guy who was all business, which was actually great. He kept us on track and didn't let things get too heated. I was pushing for a 50-50 custody split and a reassessment of my child support payments because things had changed since our original agreement. I've been spending as much time with our son as she has, not just on weekends. I showed the mediator all this stuff to back up my claim. My ex kept saying she needed the $600 because it covered essentials like rent, utilities, and stuff for our son. She got defensive when the mediator asked about her boyfriend pitching in for household expenses. The mediator walked us through the child support formula used in our state, considering our incomes, time with our son, and our expenses. Turns out, she should actually be paying me around $100 a month. Her face was priceless when the calculations came out, like she couldn't believe it. She started crying and said she wouldn't be able to afford her bills without my payments. That made me feel a bit bad, but also annoyed since she made me feel guilty when I was actually overpaying. The mediator dug into her expenses, and it turned out a lot was going on non-essentials like monthly massages, hair and nail appointments, and her new car payments, none of which should be my problem. After about 2 hours of hashing it out, we finally agreed to formalize the 50-50 custody. So, here's what's up. We put some holiday rules in place, and we've agreed that I'll shell out $200 a month in support. I'm not going after any back support because honestly, I'm not trying to mess with her finances. I just wanted something fair, and $200 seemed like a good middle ground. It really helps me out with my budget, and it still provides some support for our son's expenses at her place. During mediation, I found out they want the court to check if both homes are pulling their weight financially for our kid. I had no idea this was even a thing. They thought it was weird I was paying extra support along with handling most of the custody stuff and other expenses. So, I guess we'll see how that plays out. The mediator said this process involves checking out our homes, chatting with our son, and going through our finances to ensure our kids' needs are being met and support money is being spent right. Standard stuff when there's a big difference between what I'm paying and what the typical formula suggests. Honestly, I'm not too worried. Our place is clean, my son's got everything he needs, and I can track where all the money goes. But my ex seemed a bit uneasy, which makes me wonder if she's got something to hide. Anyway, we left mediation with a signed agreement that'll be filed with the court. The new child support kicks in next month. Oh, and we also nailed down the holiday/vacation schedule, which is awesome because we've butted heads over that before. Now we've got clear plans for Christmas, Thanksgiving, spring break, etc., so fewer arguments. My ex hasn't really chatted with me since then, just the necessary stuff about the kid. Pickups and drop-offs have been kind of awkward, she hardly makes eye contact. Her mom even texted me a sort of apology, saying, "Sorry if I overreacted, but you gotta see our side," which is better than nothing, I guess. Our son seems totally cool, which is all that matters to me. My wife and I have started saving a bit each month for a summer family trip. Probably just to a lake cabin not too far away, nothing extravagant, but it'll be nice to have a getaway to look forward to. Some folks were curious about my ex's boyfriend. As far as I know, they're still together. He wasn't at the mediation, and she didn't bring him up much, just mentioned his finances aren't our concern. I don't pry into what happens at her place, doesn't seem right to put our son in that position. I really appreciate the helpful comments from my original post. It's a relief having a more official agreement. Our first one was fine for a while, but things change, and we're just figuring it out. I might update again if anything interesting comes up from the court investigation. Right now, I'm just focused on being a good dad and moving forward. To the person who suggested going for full custody and destroying her, that's not my goal at all. My son loves his mom, and despite our issues, she's good to him. Taking him from her would hurt him the most, and I would never do that. Some of you seem to have some serious revenge fantasies. Anyway, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you're in a similar spot, my advice is to get everything in writing from the start and don't hesitate to revisit agreements as life shifts. And maybe chat with a lawyer first instead of winging it like I did.